The Republican push to pass a tax reform bill has made it to the point where Obamacare repeal efforts once failed. Senate Republicans hope to bring their bill to a vote as early as this Thursday. But a handful of their colleagues are on the fence, and they can only afford to lose 2 votes. The president didn't seem concerned about getting those votes. Here's what he said after meeting with Republican senators on Tuesday.
We had a good day today. We had a phenomenal meeting with the Republican senators. We had, it was very special, that meeting. In many respects, I wish you could have been inside that room. It was very, very special. The camaraderie. It was somewhat of a love fest. They want to see it happen. They want to see it happen, not only for the Republican Party. I think much more importantly, they want to see it happen for the country, because they know how important it is.
CBS News political director Steve Chaggaris is here. Steve, so great to see you. So much to talk about. Let's start with this. Majority Leader Mitch McConnell compared getting 50 Republican votes for the tax bill to solving a Rubik's Cube. I asked for a prop.
Have you ever solved a Rubik's Cube?
Not all 6 sides. So this is my question. This now got out of the Budget Committee. How many sides of the Rubik's Cube have we now solved at this point?
Well, that was the follow-up to Mitch McConnell. No one asked him the question, right?
Right.
I don't know. I mean, so now that it's out of the committee, right, that's a big step in the process of this. What's even more significant is that there are about probably 9 Republican senators who have not indicated that they are on board yet. 2 of those senators are on the Senate Budget Committee and voted for the bill to get out of committee. So that is a positive sign for Republicans. Senator Ron Johnson, Senator Bob Corker, 2 pretty vocal potential no votes on this, voted for this to at least get to the floor for debate, and have also said that they feel like they're moving in the right direction on this. And so you're starting to hear Republicans come closer to maybe a yes on this after conversations with the president. And so perhaps they are on the road to this.
Yeah, well, so then the question becomes, how are the efforts when it comes to tax reform different than what happened with the move to try to repeal and replace Obamacare?
I mean, if you look at it on the face of it, it's not much different. It's the same type of situation. They only have a 2-seat majority. They can only afford to lose two votes. And they were unable to get that with Obamacare. I think the difference here, though, is there's no question that Senate Republicans, House Republicans, Republican donors, Republicans all over the country are on the verge of panic because they're looking at an entire year of a Republican president and a Republican-led Congress, and they have nothing to show for it in terms of legislative accomplishments. And there have been warnings, dire warnings, from Republican donors and Senate Republicans say, if we don't get this done this year, this is going to severely negatively impact us in the midterms next year. So I think that is in the back of most of these Republican senators' minds as they work through their problems with their bill, knowing that this is probably a must-pass.
Right, the back of their minds, the front of their minds. Basically, this pressure must feel crushing at this point as we watch the days go by, right, and less time. Is there, though, reason to feel optimistic because of that pressure? I mean, for the Republicans, you know, they understand what is at stake here politically for them. Could it be that that pressure actually brings them to some kind of compromise that folks can live with?
That's what they're hoping. And it looks like, that, again, we might be on the road to that. I don't know if it's going to happen by the end of this week, which is the goal of Mitch McConnell, is to get a vote on this by Thursday or Friday. There's still a lot of changes that need to be made to coerce these 9 or so Senate Republicans to come on board. That's a pretty heavy lift to get that Rubik's Cube solved in the next couple of days, but maybe before, maybe next week, which slows the process down a bit, but at least they get it through the Senate.
All right, let's talk about the president's remarks today. We heard him there targeting the Democrats, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, and, you know, they did not attend that lunch or that meeting as it was intended, but there's a little bit of history, too, right? He got in some trouble, politically speaking, with some elements of his own base the last time he met with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. Will you just remind us? I mean, this didn't happen in just a vacuum where he had the sort of political theater here. It was, in some ways, perhaps related to the response he got after he met with the Democrats the last time.
Well, he had the top 4 leaders in the room to talk about a deal on how we're going to get through a spending bill back in September at the White House. And what came out of that meeting was a statement from the Democrats saying, great, we got a deal on immigration. There's going to be no wall, and we got a deal, or we're close to a deal on DACA. almost immediately, Trump got dumped on by his supporters and conservatives saying, well, wait a minute, what kind of deal are you making with the Democrats here? And this happened right in front of Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan.
Right.
So Trump had to come out and say, well, wait a minute, no, the wall is not off the table, and we did not come to a deal. And so that sort of started, I think, the bad taste in the mouths of Schumer and Pelosi, and then it's just been incessant Donald Trump aggressive, insulting, whatever word you want to use to describe the negative comments coming out of Trump's mouth and on his Twitter feed toward Schumer and Pelosi. And today was, for them, the last straw. There was a tweet this morning from Trump that said they're not willing to make a deal. And he said, okay, well, fine. You don't want to make a deal? We're not going to show up.
Well, so the president specifically said that the Democrats are weak on crime and immigration. How do you think that'll all factor into negotiations over the spending bill?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. I think Schumer and Pelosi, I think, are going to want to sit down with McConnell and Ryan and figure out where can we find middle ground on this. We do want to get somewhere on immigration. We do want to have a spending bill that gets us through the end of the next fiscal year. So there will be, I think, an actual serious conversation that goes on between the Democratic leaders and the Republican leaders on the Hill, which is what Schumer and Pelosi said they wanted to do with not showing up to the White House by design. They wanted to sit with the Republican leaders. The question is how far is Trump willing to move in terms of immigration, in terms of the wall? That is something that I suspect he and McConnell and Ryan talked about at the White House today. So they know in their negotiations with Schumer and Pelosi how far they can go on this to try to get some sort of deal. So, again, it sort of poisons it a little bit, but at the same time, Trump's not a part of this negotiation now. This is just between the congressional leaders, so we'll see what happens.
All right. Also on Tuesday, a federal judge ruled in favor of President Trump, refusing to block the appointment of Mick Mulvaney as interim director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That means Leandra English, who was appointed to lead the bureau by the outgoing director, Richard Cordray, is not in charge. So the question is, who is in charge? What happens at this particular point?
He's in charge.
So he's in charge.
He's in charge temporarily. He's the acting director, and they'll have to come up with a permanent director that'll have to be confirmed. But right now, this is now a Trump appointee running this bureau, which is not what has happened since the beginning. The bureau was implemented under Barack Obama, and Republicans feel that this is a very political agency, one that is anti-Wall Street, one that is too much regulation, and so now you're going to get somebody in there. And this is the story. The story is not the fact that there were two acting directors butting heads. The story is what is the direction of this agency moving forward. Now you've got Mick Mulvaney, who has called the agency a joke. You've got him being a Trump appointee, somebody who has said we're going to roll back these regulations on Wall Street, and this is one of the places where you can do some of that. So I think you're going to start to see that moving forward. They're going to just start unraveling some of this stuff, which is what Wall Street wants to see, which is what Trump's supporters want to see, and I think we'll start seeing that for the first time in the history of this agency. Yeah,
interesting. He started that new Twitter handle, CFPV Director, and so already they're communicating to the masses via Twitter.
I wonder how many followers that one will get.
I don't know. I should check it.
It's a little inside baseball, but you never know.
All right, Steve Chaggaris, always great to see you in person.
Great to see you, Elaine.
Stop by more
Thanks for
often.
having me.
You know, we're always here. You could stop by anytime.
Well, you know where to find me, too.
Yeah, true. All right, you're a busy guy. Steve, thank you.